What is up, you guys? Welcome back to my channel, and if you're new here, just welcome. My name is Gemma Jade, but today we are going to be discussing encounters with bizarre extraterrestrial entities. Now, if you watch me on SOR, I did cover this about a week ago. It kind of just came up. I didn't plan on covering it twice, but here it is for those of you who didn't see it, and also for those of you who did, because in my videos there's a little bit more flair going on. Especially in this community, we should all by now know of at least one alien abduction story. I've covered several throughout my short run here on YouTube so far, but something I was discussing with some friends the other night got me to thinking, how many types of extraterrestrials are out there, really? Of course, this is a question we probably won't ever get an actual answer to, as the possibilities are endless and answering it would be an impossibility in and of itself. I was wondering what kind of encounters had been had with other types of alien entities besides the same ones that we always hear about all the time. The short grays, the tall whites, all of the usual suspects, if you will. What type of terrifying looking things are lurking out there above us in the night? Possibly cloaking themselves so we remain unaware of its presence until it finds the perfect time to strike and invade our homes, minds, and possibly even our bodies if the experimentation or even the hybrid rumors are to be believed. And I do believe them. By the way, do you like my shirt? Love it. I missed writing so much because I've been doing so many different things, but I just couldn't stay away, like I said last week. So here's just a few of the encounters I've come across of humans one way or another crossing paths with an alien entity that I've never heard of before. Also, I mean, they're pretty bizarre looking and somewhat terrifying as well. So it's going to be another week or two of the weekly 3-card and then one video, but I am planning on getting back to my 2-video schedule. Okay. Here are the encounters. In 1954, somewhere unspecified in Canada, brings us our first, very surreal in my opinion, encounter. At around 5 p.m. on July 2nd, 23-year-old Canadian miner named Ennio Lasarza was out and about one night. It's unclear what he was doing, and me being me, I did try to find out exactly why was he out, what was he doing, where was he, but because it's an unspecified place in Canada, I really couldn't find an answer. When he spotted a spherical figure about 25 feet in diameter, which had a set of portholes surrounding it. The portholes were around the edge and, quote, pieces of landing gear and something like a retractable antenna on top of it, end of quote. The object landed in a nearby clearing and 3 figures climbed out of it right before his eyes. So he's watching these figures climb out. Ennio described them as being approximately 13 feet tall, with bluish-green skin and bodies that glowed. On the tops of their heads were 2 antennae each, and between each set of antennae was 1 large eye. These strange aliens had 6 sets of arms equally distributed throughout the body, and their hands were what we as humans would liken to claws on a crab. So the eye on the head was kind of like as large as the forehead and connected to the antenna. That's how I understood it when I was reading it. So the hands were like those pincer thingies, and they were clattering open and shut and making that creepy I always think it's creepy, that pincer noise. Ennio says the apparent leader of this group rushed him and hit him hard with a psychic blow. I'm sure a lot of you know what that means. If you watch my channel, you kind of should. Psychic blows are no fun and can actually be quite painful. It's kind of like just this blow of energy that actually hits you. I'm like smacking myself in the chest, and it'll throw you back. This blow, as most do, knocked him to the ground, and just as quickly as all of this had occurred, the 3 figures rushed back into their ship and took off back into the night sky at an unbelievable speed. I know we were joking on SOR, kind of how it was like that creature from Futurama. I think it was that we were saying the pincer thing, but I don't know. The whole thing just creeps me out because, again, there's an impossible number of different types of beings. And I'm not saying these beings are evil or whatever, but being a human, and fae, but being a human mostly, right? It's creepy and kind of horrifying to think of a creature that looks like this. and with that much power backing it up too. On December 20th, 1958, two men from Sweden named Hans Gustafsson and Stig Rydberg were driving together along Route 45 from Höganäs to Heisenberg in the early morning hours of an otherwise normal day thus far. The route was foggy and had extremely poor visibility, so the pair decided to pull over and wait the fog out. They were near a rural village called Domston. Almost instantly, as they stepped out of their vehicle, so if the weather was, I guess it was just foggy, I guess not rainy, it didn't really specify, but like you're stepping out to stand in the fog. I don't know, maybe they had been driving for a long time and they had to stretch their legs. These encounters that I came across were really short, and they were in like one or two sources and they all had the same information. So I'm trying to find more because I want to know more, but I just couldn't find much. So almost instantly as they stepped out of their vehicle, and despite the terrible visibility the fog was causing that morning, they both noticed a very large, very strange, and obviously very out of place glow emanating from the nearby woods. For whatever reason, they thought it was a good idea to hike over to where they thought this glow was emanating from and see what it was and what in the world was going on in the forest. The forest was otherwise dark, except the glow being cast over the tops of the trees for almost as far as they could see. They found what they were looking for about 150 feet into these dense and kind of scary sounding woods. They came across the source of this mysterious glow. I doubt either one of them had anticipated what they were about to see next. Not in their wildest dreams or combined wildest imaginations could they have ever thought up what they were looking at. Right there in front of them was a disc-shaped object standing on two legs. So it was kind of hovering in the air, but not really because it was being held up. So not hovering in the air, sorry, and being held up by two legs. It was approximately 2 feet in length, and the entire thing was alight with all different colors seemingly changing from one second to the next. The object was almost pulsating with energy from the colors that it was emitting. So the energy seemed to be coming with the colors, like as it would flash the color, and then energy would almost, it was almost tangible. Wandering aimlessly around this strange craft was an even more bizarre sight to behold. There roamed amorphous blobs which were about 3 feet in length, and one of the men would describe this scene like this, quote, "They were like protozoa, just a bit darker than most, sort of a bluish color, hopping and jumping around the saucer like globs of animated jelly," end of quote. There were no limbs visible anywhere on this thing's body, and they were basically just fat, sloppy globs of gelatinous goop pulsating and hopping or slithering around on the ground. There were also no visible sensory organs or discernible features. Things escalated very quickly as these things noticed the two men, and immediately these things surrounded the men and began to engulf their limbs with their goopy, fat, jelly bodies. Kind of like the Blob movie is what I was thinking when I heard this at first. Just sucking the men's legs and possibly their arms into their blobby mass. The men described this as, quote, magnetic dough, end of quote. It was as if the jellies were magnetically attracting their human bodies into their mass. They also said the thing gave off an extremely rotten and putrid stench that smelled kind of like, quote, ether and burnt sausage, end of quote. Ugh, puke. The men kicked and lashed out, but to no avail. It seemed as though they were completely defenseless against these creatures. Every blow seemed to be just absorbed and didn't slow these creatures down at all, like not in the slightest. Somehow and somewhat miraculously at this point, one of the men was able to break free of the seemingly magnetic hold and fall backwards onto the ground. He ran towards his vehicle as fast as he possibly could. The whole time, these blobs were in hot pursuit, or at least some of them. The other ones were still attacking the other guy. When he finally reached the car, he leaned inside and slammed on the horn. He just laid his hand on it and let it echo throughout the forest and woods. For whatever reason, this seemed to work, and the blobs let go of his friend. His intention was just to draw somebody or someone out there or another passerby to them to render help, and also to verify what they were seeing. I mean, who's going to believe this? who's going to believe this? I mean, I believe it, but if you were telling me this, I would believe you. But this is, you know, back in the day, and I just don't know. Like, in this community, it's so believable. But, like, if I were to tell Ray this, he would be like, are you using again? So he was trying to lay on the horn to get somebody's attention, but there was nobody around. Nobody else seemed to be around at that moment, but at least they were both free, and ready to get the F out of there as quickly as possible. The blobs were so frightened, seemingly by the horn, or that's what it seemed like, that they all got together and huddled under the spacecraft and slithered inside of it, kind of as like one gelatinous mass. Once they were all inside, the craft took off, you guessed it, faster than a speeding bullet. The men reported remembering that when the craft took off, it emitted a blaring whistling sound and an extremely loud shrieking noise. They also left behind their burnt sausage, putrid stench. The two men were shaking to their core, bewildered and absolutely terrified of what they'd just been through. They also quickly noticed they were covered in strange bruises and scratches all over the parts of their bodies that were being sucked into these blob creatures' bodies. The men didn't speak about this encounter with anyone but each other for a really long time, but when they finally did go public, they became kind of like miniature celebrities in Sweden. Is that the right way to say that? Because I'm thinking like miniature. They became like mini celebrities. They were interviewed by the local police, who did everything they could to try and expose this whole thing as a hoax, but they were unsuccessful as there was nothing to show the men to be untruthful about any of it. The men were examined and were said to have had no mental health issues and were also in great physical shape as well at the time leading up to the encounter/attack. So these police really went all out, because I think they were like, these guys are trying to stir up some stuff and like trying to cause, I don't know, a public, what is it called? A public outcry or whatever. And just like getting everybody all worked up. So the police really took great measures to have these guys checked out, at least according to my sources, according to the reports. But came back that everything was all good. They were definitely traumatized afterwards though, and that's for damn sure. The police and authorities believed, if nothing else, that the men believed that they had experienced what they said they had, and that ended up being enough for them. Nothing else could really be done if you think about it, right? I mean, I've looked for other accounts of this strange blob entity, and I couldn't find anything at all. Granted, I only did a cursory search for now. I'll be revisiting all of these to dive deeper into the rabbit hole head first and see if I can uncover any other encounters that match any of the three that I was just telling you here. What has come to be known as, quote, the Domston blobs, end of quote, is all you will get with a quick Google search of blob-like extraterrestrial entity as far as I could see. And I didn't even use Google, I used Bing. I really have to change that. I did find similar experiences, but nothing with these exact creatures. Anyway, I will be coming back to it at another time. Our next encounter takes place in 1962, and the experiencer is still unnamed to this very day. The event happened in France in the month of November. The anonymous man was driving down a lonely rural road, of course he was, in the region of Var, France, when he had his life-changing encounter. It was an encounter he surely would never forget. There was heavy rain pouring down, and again, there was low visibility. Despite this, however, the man saw something in front of him that looked at first like a group of people just huddled together on the side of the road, completely exposed to the elements in this really bad downpour. He soon realized, though, that he wasn't looking at actual human beings. He stated, quote, rounding the bend, I saw 80 meters, which is just over 260 feet, ahead, a group of figures clustered in the middle of the road. I slowed down to avoid the group, and at the same moment, it split into two parts, suddenly and very jerkily. My window was down, and I leaned my head out slightly to see what was the matter. It was then that I saw beasts, some kind of bizarre animals with the heads of birds and covered with some sort of plumage, which were hurling themselves from two sides towards my car. Terrified, I wound up my window, accelerated like a madman, and then stopped 150 meters, approximately 500 feet, further on. I turned around and saw these things, these beasts, these nightmarish sort of beings, which were heading with a sort of flapping of wings toward a luminous dark blue object, which hung in the air over a field on the other side of the road, end quote. He said that as these strange humanoids flew up towards the object, they were quite literally, quote, sucked into it as if by whirlwind, end of quote. Of course, we then have the craft shooting up and disappearing into the sky at lightning fast speeds. I tried to look for more in this encounter because this one was the most intriguing out of all of the ones that were in this for me. I mean, they're all so interesting, but this one really intrigued me, but not really surprising. I couldn't find anything else considering this guy still hasn't even released his name. Maybe he's worried about an MIB visit. I don't know. Anyways, because that one was so short, here's one more. And don't worry, like I said, I have plenty more of these that I'll be bringing to you soon if you like them enough and find this topic interesting. So let me know in the comments below. I'm only going to be doing part 2s in series of the videos that get a lot of likes or enough comments from people wanting more. My views are really, really low, guys, and not just on the pick a card. And I don't get it because I'm putting out the same type of content. I'm getting so much more comfortable in front of the camera and in my own skin and talking with you guys. I'm doing a lot more to get myself out there, like SOR, like Chop Shop. I mean, I don't know, the views are really low. So if there's any videos you haven't checked out yet, please go on and do that. All right, I would really, really appreciate it. Because, I mean, otherwise, if you guys aren't enjoying the content or wanting more, then there's no point for me because I'm putting this stuff out because I find it interesting. If I put something out, I find it interesting. And also, I want you guys to enjoy it. I want you guys to want more. I want you guys to be waiting for the next one. By the way, all new, brand new, not from my book, not from MP&M, brand new Missing in the Fae coming out in a month or two. I'm going to try to get it out for February. Anyways, here we go to the last encounter of this video. On September 20th, 1965, 3 25-year-old men named Jeffrey Maskey, Mavis Fordyce, and Michael Johnson were driving, you guessed it, along a remote road near Felixstowe, England, when they decided to pull over to the side of the road to talk. This in and of itself was weird to me because why couldn't they just talk in the car while they were driving? Like, is that weird? I don't know. Like, you're driving with 2 of your friends and you're like, hey, you know what? Let's pull over on the side of this isolated, desolate, and rural road and have a chat. I don't know. Maybe it's just me. Anyway, out of nowhere, Michael Johnson decided to get out of the car and go walking off into the gloomy and unlit woods nearby where they had pulled over. So I guess maybe they were somehow compelled. Now, if it said that for no reason at all they pulled over, but it said specifically that they had pulled over to talk. So I don't know. Let me know what you guys think about that, seriously. The others just assumed he was going to answer a call of nature and didn't think much of it at first. Almost immediately upon his walking off, though, the 2 men in the car started hearing a high-pitched humming sound, and that was a quote, coming out of these woods that Michael was walking nonchalantly and somewhat inexplicably right towards. He was walking right into these woods. The other 2 men were really scared, and they started to look around to see if they could find the source of the noise, and sure enough, they spotted what was creating this infernal racket. An oval-shaped UFO was hovering about 90 feet above their vehicle. The craft was surrounded by an eerie orange glow. I'm not sure what happened immediately next, as all of the source material has Mike Johnson explaining to the other men what had happened to him. I think maybe the men were compelled to leave him there or something. Maybe the men left in the car, were abducted, or had some missing time there. So it goes from he's walking in the woods, they spot the craft above their car, and then the next day he's telling them what's going on. There is literally nothing else. And you guys know me with my research. This is absolutely like very, very frustrating for me. But that's what it is. It is what it is. So I don't know, guys, but the story resumes the next day with Mike telling them what had happened. He started by saying he was inexplicably compelled by some unseen force to go walking into the dark woods. He said he ventured just past the trees and out of the clearing when he encountered a bizarre creature with huge eyes and, quote, engulfed by orange flames, end of quote. He said as soon as he had seen this flaming thing, he passed out immediately. He had no memory whatsoever of what had happened next, except that he had woken up that morning, the next day, in a hospital bed. He left to go find the other 2 men and tell them what he'd seen. I wish there was more, as I already said, as to what happened to the 2 men in the car. What happened to Michael? Why didn't they go look for poor old Mike? What happened after they realized the UFO was glowing orange and floating 90 feet above their car? I mean, it seems almost impossible to believe this thing was just hovering there over them like that for no reason at all. That's how a lot of abductions start. Or maybe it was so that, like, to put fear in them to stay in the car so that they wouldn't try and stop Mike from walking any further into the woods, because that seems to be the only memorable effect it actually did have. They were too scared to get out of the car. I don't know if they drove off. I don't know if they were abducted. I don't know if they were missing time. I don't know. If you know anything else about any of these cases, please be sure to email me or get at me in the comments, like whatever. But that's all I have for you today, guys. I really hope that you enjoyed this story. You enjoyed hanging out with me. If you did, please give this video a big thumbs up. Spank that like button, smack that like button. I don't know where I was going with that. Spread the love by sharing this video. Yes, I'm in a goofy mood because I really miss filming and I really miss scripting. I've had so many other things going on and it's like, I want to focus back on the point, right? So I'm going to try to leave the link for MoonBearOracle. It is my other channel where I'm going to be doing monthly, at first monthly, and then monthly and weekly oracle readings for each astrological sign. And I have the channel up. I have the email ready. Okay, so if you want personals, that's where you'll email me from now on, at MoonBearOracle@gmail.com. It's all set up. I already have subscribers over there. You guys have been so amazing subscribing. There's no content yet, but I'm hoping to have the content out the last week of January because the first videos I'm releasing are for the month of February. Come March, it's going to be not only monthly for each astrological sign, but also weekly. So doing big things. I'm also making the jewelry for the Etsy line, so stay tuned for that. I'm waiting to get a little bit extra time. My weekend alone kind of fell through, but it's going to pick back up sometime, hopefully next week, where I get that, block of few days where I can really just focus on work. And I'm going to get some help with actual merch for my channel, which is going to be awesome as well. In the description box, you will find a link for the MoonBearOracle channel. I would really appreciate it if you would go on over there and subscribe if you're interested in astrological oracle. I didn't know what to call it. Astrological oracle sounds great. Also, I will put a link to the after-hour show that I do every Saturday and Sunday nights over on Spaced Out Radio right here on YouTube with Big Willy Jon and Jon Hudson. And I'm going to leave the link for the one where I covered this, so you can hear like Willie and John in the chat's reactions. Some of you guys were there. You'll remember. It's been an awesome show, you guys. You have to check that out. It's from 11 p.m. to 2 a.m. Eastern time. So it really is the after-hour show over on Spaced Out Radio. And right before we go on Saturday and Sunday nights, Lynn Wallington is on from 9 to 11 p.m. Eastern time. She kind of brings us in, has a drink with y'all, and check her out too because she is amazing. She really is the queen of the night. And of course, Dave Scott. That's all I should have to say. Dave Scott is on Spaced Out Radio. He's a freaking rock star, right? So go on over, subscribe to Spaced Out Radio if you haven't already, okay? Also, check me out on Friday nights on Paranormal Chop Shop. Right now, I'm on there from 9 p.m. Eastern to 10 or 11 Eastern. I'm kind of figuring out my Friday night schedule with that because I do have so much going on the weekends, but over there hanging out with Sunny and the boys, and that's just an amazing time too. It's very low-key, very laid back, and I really, really love doing that show as well. I'll leave a link to one of those in the description box as well, so you can see kind of what we do over there too. Also in the description box, you will find the link to Amazon for my book, Missing the Fae Theory. I have another book coming out in a couple of months, okay? But Missing the Fae Theory, the paperback or Kindle version, the links will be in the description box if you want to purchase that. If you want an autographed copy, please email me first. If you have any encounters with the supernatural and or paranormal that you would like to be a part of my listener encounter series, please email me at GemmaJadeParanormal@gmail.com. It takes me a while to get back to emails, guys. They're the one thing that always seem to fall by the wayside, but I'm getting more organized. I'm getting things together. You guys have been so amazing and supportive, and you guys make me so focused. Like, I can do this, right? Not everything's so like Pisces, Sun, Libra, Moon, scatterbrain, right? You focus me more on my Aries rising, like, yeah, let's go. So it takes me a while to get back to emails, but I do always respond. As far as the personals, it makes me cringe to have to talk about money. So I'm not going to keep saying this. I'm going to have the prices for personals in the description box. 3-card readings, 7 to 12 card readings, and a 1-hour face-to-face reading through Skype or, I don't know, Zoom, I guess. Well, it'll be face-to-face, whatever is easiest for you guys. And again, those are set prices, but I'll work with you. I just couldn't keep doing them for free. But I need to do personals. People are like, well, if you're going to charge, you shouldn't do them. No, I need to do them. They help me very, very much, but they just take way too long for me to be just giving away 15, 20 at a time. I hope you guys understand that. Also, birth charts. Birth charts take a lot of time, a lot of effort, a lot of hours, guys. So I wasn't even going to do them anymore, but I think I found a very fair price for the birth charts. And again, I will work with you. And don't worry, you're not going to have to hear about money at the end of every video. I just figured this out last week. So this will probably be the last video where I actually go in depth. Otherwise, it's just going to be like prices for readings and birth charts in the description box. Also in the description box, you will find ways to support the channel. My Amazon wish list link for this channel and MoonBearOracle. It's just one link, everything kind of put together for both channels. Patreon, Cash App, and PayPal. Okay, and that's a really good way to kind of support me, if you can, financially, to help me keep the channel going, help me get the other channel built up, and just help me get everything together and everything that I need to continue bringing you guys the best possible content that I possibly can. I care about you guys. I love you guys. I appreciate you guys. Be kind to each other. It doesn't cost anything. It can make you feel really good. You'll notice when you smile at a stranger, a real genuine smile, they almost always smile back and you can make their whole day, okay? Be kind to yourselves as well and don't accept anything less than others being kind to you too. Now that I have this extremely long outro, and I promise, like I said, this won't be all the time, I will leave you to it. Always go in grace. Have your best day. Have your best night. And I will see you guys next time. Bye.